This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here are your hosts, Jeff Gardner and Sean Preston.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we got a couple of lovely neighbors on with us, and that is Kate and Jody from Foodworks by KaJo. What's going on today?
Hey, just, you know what? Awesome to be here. Happy to talk to you guys. Excited to kind of, learn a little bit about how a podcast works and talk a little bit about what we do too.
The weather's amazing, so it's
Sunshine.
great. The sun's out. We're happy.
Yeah.
So busy season's just around the corner and moving up and ramping up. So it's a happy time of year.
Yep.
It's great.
I love seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, as I like to call it. I think
Snow's melting.
18 or 19 today. I am
Yay.
happy and pissed at the same time because I'm in here doing podcasts all day. And have you guys had a chance to get out there at all today?
As far as like walking from the car to a building and back again, but we can see it through the windows over here, and the sun is shining. There is no snow in eyesight, and bring on spring. Bring on spring.
Snow's melting. It's all off the roof at the house, so we're happy.
Yeah,
everything's happy.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Well, This is kind of a fun experience for me. And the reason being is because, Jeff and I do a fair amount of podcasts, get to meet a lot of different business owners in our local market. All of it's great. Most of the time, it's somebody that I've never met before, which is cool. Get to let curiosity lead the conversation a little bit more. But in some of the rare cases, we get guests on the show that we've got to spend a little bit more time with, like we have. Seeing each other at different networking events, hosting one at one of your venues, stuff like that. So a little bit more on the comfortability level from that standpoint. And so I'm super excited to do this with you guys. And so I'm sure our listeners are probably chomping at the bit right now. And so we should probably give them what they want. And why don't we dive right into it? I wanted you guys to tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So you want me to start?
You start.
All right. So Foodworks by KaJo. So we like to think of ourselves anyway as a kind of a fully mobile catering company. If we just talk about kind of our little niche, I guess, is more so what we would call unconventional venues. So, we can move and shake and make things happen just about anywhere you can think of. So literally, if it's a field, if it's your backyard, in a tent, in a barn, that's really kind of our jam. We do banquet halls, but we really like to think that we're flexible and kind of nimble and we can make just about anything kind of work. Jody, he's really the mastermind behind a lot of our delicious dishes. I'm kind of that front of the house girl, and that's sort of how we divide and conquer, I guess, right?
Yeah, like Kate's the upfront. She's going to quote you. She's going to talk to you. She's going to build the menu. She's going to do all the above. And then she's going to come to me and say, hey, guess what? We got an event in a field. I don't know what's happening out there, but can you just go and hang out there and figure it out? And so then I load everything up and we cook everything. We load everything up. And we get out there and we just make it work. And I mean, that's the exciting part about it. I mean, I personally came from a car business for 20 plus years. Kate, corporate world, but I did cater and I've catered over the years, and it was some of my happiest times because typically you're serving people and they're there to have fun and enjoy your food and talk about things, and it's an event filled space, and with COVID and going backwards with everything else that's happened over the years, it brought both of us, I can say for Kate and myself, back to this industry again, and hospitality, and it is what we do. We live to host and hang out and have fun and have people enjoy our services and food. We hope. Yeah. We always ask the question and it's never fully answered, but sometimes it is. But anyway, it's all good. Yeah, but that's us. So
that's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
Can totally agree with that. I mean, for those regular listeners on the show, Julie, I mention her often, my fiance. We both love to host and love to cook, and getting to see the emotions and reactions from
Yeah.
our guests, especially when you just absolutely fucking nail a dish
You
and
love
they're
it.
just losing it, right? Because it's so good.
Yeah.
And I did 9 years in the car business. I was a marketer in the car business. So
Yeah.
had a lot of time to spend in dealerships, and we used to host events at dealerships. So we even do the bell to bell for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
And mix and mingle with the sales staff and see
Yeah.
the culture and what it is. So from what you're talking about, I actually relate to that very much, because I did leave the car business to pursue being a business owner.
Yeah.
And what you're describing there as, you know, people are coming for an event and it's fun, they're having fun, and then you get to even up that level. So
Yeah. And really, you can make it or break it, right? I mean, you can really make or break some, particularly because of what we do. Like food is kind of, for a lot of events, food is one of the things that people are going to remember. They're either going to remember it because it was really good, or they're going to remember it because it was really bad. There tends not to really kind of be an in-between.
Yeah.
So there is, I think, you know, there's pressure that comes along with that, because inherently we're so engaged in wanting to make sure and I call them guests. They're not clients to us. They're guests. They're our guests. It doesn't matter whether we're in a banquet hall or if we're in your backyard, you're still our guest for that day. You know, so inherently we want to make sure that all of our guests have this experience that they're going to remember. If they're the hosts of the party, we want to make sure that the people that are there celebrating with them, and it's not always a happy celebration. It could also be a sad celebration. Like, you know, we go down that road as well. But at the same time, you know, it's really important to us to know that we have done our best to make their day as stressless, or, you know, as little stress as possible. Seamless. We've delivered, you know, we've delivered on or above their expectations. And that's really, really important to us. It's not just a job. I mean, you know, like you talked about being in car business and being in marketing, like it's kind of the same for us. Our previous lives, we were both in very customer facing jobs, even though it wasn't always hospitality. So, you know, it's really important to you. And you know, if you have made somebody happy or maybe not quite made them happy, and we always want to make them more than happy. I don't know if that doesn't make sense.
It makes sense. It's like, Sean, you know the car business, you see the car business, you walk through the car business. I don't really like going back to the car business again, but at the same time, my clientele, and Kate and I have talked about this numerous times, I would be in the morning at 7 a.m., but I was there not to sell a car, but to service a car. So I would be there to hold my customer's hand to say, I'll get you into service. I'll make sure everything's fine. And at the end of the day, sometimes there was no sale at the end of the day, but I had maybe 3 or 4 service customers or happy customers. And it just brings me back to the catering aspect of it and our event space, where we're like, this is what I wake up in the morning for, is because I want to just make sure that the experience everyone has is just over and above and exceeded. And, you know, I've kind of learned some stuff from the car business. For sure I have, from marketing to everything else I've done, from events and you know, I was never a conventional car salesman, if you will. That was never me. I would look for the out. When I say the out, it would be the golf tournament where I could put where I could sit there and watch and do a hole-in-one contest and maybe sell a car, or maybe just whatever, have a drink or something like that. It doesn't really matter. My point is, now we've elevated this to when Kate and I do an event and we wrap our heads around helping anyone, for instance, at an event. If we can up our game and offer something extra, that's what we do. Yeah. And when I say that, it could be, we'll give you, you know, we're going to sponsor and we're going to provide whatever it might be. But that is kind of our goal, right? That's kind of where we want to be, right? So anyway, for sure. That's us.
So we've talked about, you know, different like types of what we'd like to call, as you mentioned, like unconventional locations and styles of, like, we could do something tiny in your backyard, open in a field, do it on an ice skating rink. You know, we can kind of make that happen. But let's talk a little bit about the food. So, you know, typically we're talking about catering. Caterers, you know, can offer a very wide selection. of different types of food. Other businesses like to niche down and offer, you know, a select, you know, kind of type of food. And so why don't we kind of dive in just so the listeners understand, like, what's the stuff that you really like to do? Let's talk about some of your favorites. And then let's talk about, you know, the wider audience and then for some people that have maybe some dietary restrictions.
So at a really high level, I think we really like to talk about flexibility when we're talking with somebody who is potentially interested in hiring us for their event. So we always try to be flexible. Having said that, I'm actually going to throw it over to Jody and I'm going to put him on the spot, because a lot of our menus really center around great proteins. So great beef, great brisket, chicken. And that's where I really take a step back and I have to, you know, give Jody props for what he does. And I'm going to let him really talk about what he likes to do there and, you know, let him take the kudos for that piece of the puzzle.
So we've built a menu off of, I came from a Maltese caterer. So they're a Maltese caterer, family run business. Their menu was based really I'm not going to say basic, but there was very simple ways that we did. There were simple ways that we did strip loin steaks that marinated proteins. It was 24 hours. There were certain ways we did turkey dinners. We carved on the spot. So Kate and I are taking that to that level as well. And we are limit our good, like, so we keep our beef really simple. As you know, Sean, I like to smoke. I really like the taste. I like the flavor.
Not cigarettes. He's talking about smoking meat.
Kate does not really like the smoke flavor. So when we cater, unless it's specifically asked, we keep the smoke out of it. So my brisket, for argument's sake, will be an oven-based brisket. It won't be my smoker-based brisket. That's a really simple one, but ribs, same thing. We may do a wedding where I smoke the ribs, but typically we have a style and we keep it very simple. I make my own rub. I make my own barbecue sauces. I have a really tried and true and keep everything very simple. So if you meet me at one event, it's going to be the same at a future event. I try to keep everything simple unless it's specifically asked. Lasagna, we do very hearty homemade lasagna. We try to keep everything very simple unless it's asked to elevate. And when I say elevate, it could be, you know, a slow roasted salmon or something like that. It's not a typical daily menu. So
Sean, I think Jody's underselling himself. So I'm going to give him some more props here, if I may, because really we are really about homemade, home style. So everything Jody just said is right, but I really think he's underselling what he does. I
got something right.
So he blends his own rubs, right? We don't go to a shelf and pull a rub off a shelf. We don't go to a shelf and pull a barbecue sauce off a shelf. So all of those things he blends them himself. He puts the passion and the time into that preparation. And on top of that, yes, for the most part, you know, it's simple, but it's not really. But at the same time, when we do a tasting with a guest, because we typically do tastings for large events such as weddings, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are getting married. You've probably done something similar recently.
You get that, right?
So when we do a tasting for us, it's a dialogue and it's a conversation. So if we present something, let's say it is, I'm going to use something really, really simple, right? It's like a spicy barbecue chicken breast.
Right.
And we might present that to somebody and they're like, ooh, you know, it's a little too hot for me, or it's not quite sweet enough for me, or can you elevate the acid in this for me? So it's really a dialogue. So we try to take that feedback and make sure that when we present that finished product to the guest, not only are we being true to ourselves and presenting that homemade, home style, you know, signature item, we also allow room for the guest to say, can you make it a little more sweet for me because that makes me really happy? Or can you dial back the heat a little bit because I'm super sensitive? I like spicy, and spicy and heat aren't the same thing, right? Necessarily. So I think we do both. It's really focusing on that home style, but at the same time allowing the person who's going to be eating that food, allowing our guest to have a little bit of a say and make sure that we respond to that. And I think that kind of circles back to the concept of not over delivering. I don't want to call it over delivering, but definitely delivering to the expectation of the client, of the guest, and making sure that you're giving them something that is really going to be reflective of what they want, not just what we want to do as caterers.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
So just sort of not dumb it down, but just take it another step, is that when we do a tasting, we're doing a tasting in a few hours tonight for a guest. And so it's a wedding that's upcoming.
Yep.
But they wanted roasted chicken, for argument's sake. So today, when Kate and I were just running around doing our thing, Kate's like, you know what, can you do a barbecue chicken with the roasted chicken? Because not that we're going to try and push them either way, but we want to give them an option to say, hey, you know what, maybe the barbecue chicken would be better to do the barbecue chicken, not the roasted chicken, or whatever that is. That being said, it's the same as our garlic green beans. We've had guests in here for tastings, and we do it the way we do it. And then they'll say, man, can you order more garlic on that?
Dial it up for me.
So then my next conversation is, Kate always is front of the house talking about it, but I will step back and then I'll come into the conversation and I'll say, hey, amazing. You guys chose roasted potatoes, mashed potatoes, whatever we tasted just now. Here's the best traveled for the situation I'm going to be taking it into, if that makes sense. So if I'm going to a field, I'm not going to take necessarily a roasted potato. I would rather take a mashed potato because it's going to travel well, be hotter, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of where I'm going. You know what I mean? So we try to we try to educate our guests the best we can and
support them, I think.
And getting into later in this podcast as we talk more about Kate and I, but that's why Kate and I will always try to be present at the event. If we're busy with multiple events, we always try to have one of us present.
Don't spread ourselves too thin.
We just like to have that relationship. We build the relationship, start the relationship with you. We want to finish it and not just send random staff out that's just going to,
that's not how we roll.
That's not how we do business.
Yeah. There's a highly customizable opportunity here for people that are coming in where, like you were saying, you can dial the heat back and, maybe crank it up or offer those suggestions to people. How do we, what's the best option depending on where you're holding your location, and just kind of guide their hand
exactly
in that direction, which is nice. And then obviously having everything, not only is it local, but it's all homemade. So exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
I got to send you my chicken wing rub. I got 14 spices in there. If you ever decide to incorporate it in your business, just please label it the Preston chicken wings.
I love that.
Done. I'm in.
I see a new menu item. Absolutely. We can make chicken wings in a field. We can.
I love that. We can do that.
Absolutely. That's totally true.
100%.
So it's nice to know that, when people like to know what's in their food, and knowing like that the rub is made homemade, that the sauces are made homemade. I got my hands on a cooking book. It was gifted to me for Christmas like 5 years ago. This guy went all over every barbecue competition circuit across the world, and he took rubs, glazes, sauces, marinades, you name it, took all the best ones from every culture, slapped it in a book. It's like a guide. It's a Bible.
I love that.
So I love making homemade sauce and then learning about it, like knowing that a barbecue sauce, let's say for pulled pork from North Carolina, is a vinegar base and South Carolina is a mustard base. And just kind of how they do it, how you have your Texas bold all the way to your Kansas City smoke, and the differences between those sauces and how they can integrate with different flavors and all of that stuff. But when I make it, I make it homemade. Like I know that there's no preservatives, there's no garbage in it. It's like, there's sugar in it, of course.
Yeah,
but,
that's
very important.
Yeah, that's definitely what we try to do. And actually, Jody makes a killer pulled pork, because you mentioned pulled pork.
I've had it before. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. But also, you touched on kind of like ingredients and local. We've always tried to support local with our ingredients wherever we can. Whether, we don't, let's face it, we don't bake our own bread. But if we can, support a local bakery, we'll support a local bakery. If it's seasonal and we have to get corn on the cob for a menu, again, we want to support local and get those seasonal ingredients from local farmers whenever we can do that. That's really important to us as well. And not to get drift into the political arena. It's a little bit tricky right now to try to support local and also deliver on guest expectations. And there's, some conversations that are being held right now. And well,
we've had conversations.
This time of year is difficult. We can't wait. We love the seasonality of Ontario and where we live. Like, we actually live in the Horseshoe Valley area. So we're surrounded by a lot of local growers. So when the time comes and we get into season, if we can go and get tomatoes or zucchini or asparagus or corn, depending on the month and the season, that's kind of always our go-to. This time of year, we're talking about doing tastings. You've done some yourself. I'm apologizing to our guests because I'm like, these tomatoes don't really taste like the tomatoes as they'll taste like when we get into July. So, please forgive us because they're just not quite the same. But that's also really important to us is to support our friends and our neighbors and our local farmers
and getting into the whole,
and bakers as well, actually.
And getting into the whole Canadian thing. I mean, we're going through it right now. We're pricing our beef out for the season. And, one of my local suppliers, who's a good friend of mine, who we use, and both of us are working together to try and figure out where are we going to get our beef, or where are we going to get our chicken, or make sure that it's not coming from the US, or whatever that is at that point. And we really are focusing, like even spices and herbs and different things. We had a tasting a few weeks back, and what did the guests say to you? Where they're growing their own now.
Oh yeah,
this is a great example of.
It's actually something that we're going to adopt as well. It's kind of a bit random.
It's a bit random,
Sean.
Track,
but
yeah.
This particular guest we're with, and she said, her family, they love cilantro, and they like to use a lot of cilantro. And she's like, yeah. So we've just started growing cilantro. And so like my brain is ticking over here. And I'm like, yeah, actually, even though our kitchen is in the city and in Barrie, we have lots of light here. So I'm going to literally start to grow like a little herb garden right here. So if I need basil or I need cilantro or I need
But the
dill,
cilantro was coming from out of...
I can go and I can get it like right from my front room and start to use it. But
100%.
It was basically a trigger from a guest. It's such an easy thing to do. So
yeah. Totally get it. Shout out to Hewitt's Farm, best corn I've ever had.
Yes.
So 5 minutes from where I live. So I agree. That seasonality aspect to our province and the different fruits and vegetables that we get in our local providers. It's a pretty cool thing. You always get excited when peaches are in season,
right?
And tomatoes, and it's like, oh yeah, hell yeah! Now the corn's around the corner. Like, let's go.
You got it. It's just your level of cooking can be under here, but when you get fresh product, it takes it up a level, right? Like
100%.
Like we have items on our menu, and we're very clear. Like it's a seasonal item. Like we have some appetizers that use peaches. Well, I'm sorry, we're not going to be comfortable serving that to you in February because, we're not confident in the flavor and the quality of the peaches we can get versus 100%. In August. For sure. We're all over that. We'll make the best ham and peach nibbler you can get in town. So
I love that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, you touched on it a little bit, and it's always nice for our listeners and even for myself when we get an opportunity to get to know a little bit of the history of the people who run our local businesses here in our local market. So I wanted to ask you, leading up to doing what you're doing today, what's that journey been like for you? What were you doing before you decided to found Foodworks by KaJo?
Do you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
You can start.
I'll start. Okay. So I was in the corporate world for about 25 years. I know, look at me, it's hard to believe that I had a 25-year career in the corporate world, but I really did. I started when I was 5.
Yeah.
And I'm kidding. No, I did. I was in the corporate world for about 25 years, and it was in food manufacturing. So I worked for a variety of national brand companies. And my focus was in food safety. And I always kind of worked with people that were in research and development or were in quality assurance and, food safety. And at the same time was dabbling in the background. I was a server on and off. I was a bartender on and off. I liked to cook. I was friends with people that liked to cook. And it just got to me, there came a point where I needed to step away from that corporate life. That was really, it was ruling my life. That long commute and just, never being off call. And so there just kind of came a point where it was time to step away from that. There was an opportunity to, I'm going to say, quote unquote, buy the kitchen where we are right now. So some people in our area may know Catering by Colin. So Colin and his wife, Wanda, had a catering business here in Barrie for over 40 years, extremely well known, had a wonderful reputation. They decided it was time for them to retire, and very well-deserved retirement. And they had this amazing space here in Barrie that was just a turnkey operation. So took the plunge and quote unquote bought the kitchen from them. And, moving forward, sort of FoodWorks was born from there. So it's been quite a learning curve at the same time. But it was kind of a bit random. It wasn't necessarily what I had been looking for, but that's how this came together for me. And at the same time, Jody was at a point in his career, which I'll let him talk about because
life changed for me, and I was out of the area, so I was in Kitchener kind of area, and life changed, things moved, and Kate and it all randomly hooked up where it
makes it sound like we hooked up. That's not what he means.
I don't mean hooked up. At the same time, we got together. It all blended all too seamlessly. Like, it was on my radar for years where I'm like, I got to get back into the business. I talked to my old catering company, Carl's Catering, which was around Brampton for ever and ever. They have streets named after them. They're still around. Bino, the son, is still running it. And coincidentally, it all went in hand, and I left the car business for numerous reasons, like COVID. There were so many different aspects to the car business that took a flying change, and I don't even know where it's at right now, to be very fair. I assume it's doing okay. I mean, inventory seemed to be coming up, but whatever. It wasn't in my radar, so I wanted to get in a happy place and move forward. And Kate and I got together. We blended this company and just started emerging it. I will take one step further, where we took off and went to Mexico as everything was coming around. We met.
I'm not sure where he's going.
We met random people. Let me just get there. So we met random people. We run into this one guy. His name is Butters. I will say this. It ended up being such a small world that I started the car business. He started the car business, all blended together. We talk about marketing and rebranding this company and making a company work. He connects us with these beautiful people. They come up with this FoodWorks by KaJo, all within a matter of 3 weeks, I think, if it all came together properly. We start marketing, and here we are. And we just went, we're doing a lot with Rock 95 and Cool FM, thanks to some people that we know, and even your networking stuff and some of the stuff that you guys offer. It's just, if businesses knew the availability and the opportunities that are at their fingertips for free, and I say free, but like very great opportunities. We've met some great people just coming to some of the socials and some of the things that you guys have offered, and we've blended into, and it's enlightening. It's like some young entrepreneur people and young business people have no idea what's available to them. They're looking at the book or whatever they do, and they're not understanding that you could just turn around and ask for help in a nice way, or guidance. I guess guidance is a better word. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're finding our legs, we're finding our direction, and I think we have a good idea of some future stuff that we're upcoming in, and
Yeah.
Well, it's all certainly exciting times, and that's what's kind of cool about Simcoe County and Barrie and our
I love it.
market that we're in. Like, do a lot of the social networking. Like, I don't think I've ever met somebody that I didn't like. Everybody's got a great attitude. We're all in the same boat. Everybody's looking to grow. We've got a great business community here. And so hearing you echo, that's just another reminder. And there's lots of opportunities out there if people just sometimes put aside the ego and just ask it out of their own way. There's lots of free stuff that's out there for people to take advantage of. You
literally just have to ask. And I think that's kind of where it gets down to. And I mean, and we are fully into supporting local and supporting, as Kate has said, one of our secondary pieces is, which we always talk about, is like, if there's a local product that we can offer, and we use Chetty's as a lot for an example, my hot sauce. He's a good friend. He's been in the business for 30 years. But if there's an opportunity for us to make ourselves a little different, that might be that little edge that we bring to the table. You know?
I think it's interesting, Sean. Sorry, just to kind of sidestep a little bit, just to kind of talk about the business community, which obviously you guys are massive supporters of, and you know, the networking and supporting entrepreneurs. It's really interesting for me coming from the corporate world, where people will stab you in the back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right? They will. Right? Who can climb the ladder the fastest and, you know, get to the top first?
Who am I stepping on?
To do it? It was actually really interesting for me, because as I start to engage more in the, I'll call them entrepreneur, small business community in Simcoe County, I really haven't experienced that. I find that people, it doesn't matter whether if we're talking to another catering company, or we're talking to somebody who owns a venue, or we're talking to somebody who has a great, I don't know, face cream. It doesn't matter what people are building, making, supporting, doing. I really, truly believe that this community is just really supportive of one another. And they, you know, you have conversations with people, and something may develop, something may not develop, but I just find it really supportive, and it's kind of refreshing to experience that, having come from, like I said, kind of that corporate world where it's not the same dynamic at all.
I've been up and down that corporate ladder. So
it's a different experience, right? Like, do you not find the same kind of thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's more pressure. There's more, let's put it this way. When our business community and the business owners that are listening, and you guys will probably agree with this, I say this a lot. Jeff mentions that I say this a lot. It's competition at the bottom, collaboration at the top.
Yeah.
That's
a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Right? And the corporate world is just really not even backwards. It's not even anywhere remotely close. It's just, there's just competition straight across the board. And then, you know, people leave bosses, they don't leave jobs. And so, you know, certain people that might not be suitable to be in those management positions, or they did something else and didn't deserve to be there when somebody else did. And then you have a culture within it. And I think our business community is a great culture. And whereas, you know, in a lot of corporate places, they might not have that culture. Some do. So I've been a part of some that I've tried to even create and implement myself, and I did. But I was the youngest person in the room, and I was at the very top, second to the president of the company. And I had people try to take me off my peg. So people just don't like to see other people succeed. Whereas when you're a business owner, it's a bit different, where, you know, usually when one succeeds, we all succeed. And the more people that you can help find success, ultimately
100%.
you'll find success. And so it's like a giving back kind of mentality. And it just seems like everybody's kind of reciprocating around here where we live. So
it turns into that jealousy perspective, right? And
in the corporate world.
In the corporate world, exactly. And that's what it is. And unfortunately, it happens, right? It's like keep up with the Joneses, but not really like keeping up with the Joneses. Like it's a, you know, it's not a fun factor. And I mean, I think with, you know, we just put our heads down where we are currently and just sort of take every day by day and what can we do better? And, you know, we've come to the conclusion on a different note, we have a Monday morning meeting now. Even though we wake up together and we leave together and we drive in the car together. But, you know, we were late for our meeting today, like Monday, past Monday. And Kate's like, hey, I was going to email you and tell you I'm late. I'm like, yeah, you're right beside me. I get it. We're running late. Right? But you know what I mean? Like at the same time, we need that perspective to go, hey, what are you doing this week? What am I doing this week? Even though we missed the meeting, I don't even know what's happening right now. Like, I'm fired. I mean, anyway.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. In every industry, there's myths, there's misconceptions that are out there. We always like to give our guests an opportunity to maybe pick one or maybe pick two to be able to clear the air, because for people that, may be listening that aren't involved in that particular industry, it's like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
And then sometimes that's where myths or false claims or understanding of certain things happen, but it's just because they're not a part of the day-to-day, they're not a part of that industry.
Yep.
And so it's always nice to be able to clear the air sometimes. So for those who are listening, are there any myths, any misconceptions when it comes to catering?
I don't know if it's a myth or a misconception, or maybe just not understanding. So we do run into it sometimes where somebody will say, I would like to have catering and I would like to have all of these things on my menu. And we're like, great. And we'll send a quote out and they'll be like, whoa, wow, wasn't quite what I was expecting in terms of the dollars and cents, right? So we all go to the grocery store. We all go shopping, right? We all buy gas. We all have to pay bills. And as a caterer, I think people forget that that's all happening in the background. So we have bills to pay. We have people to pay. We have food to buy. We have food to prep. We have to bring it typically to the space that you're having your event in. And I think, in a nutshell, people forget or don't maybe understand everything that happens in the background. So, to kind of put it in really, really simple terms, if you're making dinner for your friends or your family, even if it's just Monday to Friday, right? You have to put gas in your car, or you get on the bus, or you whatever it is that you do, right? And you have to get to the grocery store. And then you have to buy those groceries and you have to bring them home. And then in your home, you have to pay for hydro and probably gas, and you have rent or you have a mortgage, and you have to prep those food items, and then you have to cook them, and then you have to put them on a plate. And then after you finish eating, you have to wash those dishes, right? So we have to do that times 50 or times 100 or times 200. And in order to do that, you have to employ people to do it for you. So as much as we really want to work with people and work within their budget and be flexible on budget, I just sometimes wish a little bit, again, very, very simplistic terms, like take a step back and think about everything that had to happen in the background in order to present that plate of food.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, just like
so
lack of understanding, right? It just, they're not in it. They don't know.
It's not just going, to the store and buying a piece of beef. It doesn't magically happen, right? The mashed potatoes don't magically mash themselves.
Yeah, there's no mashed potato fairy.
I wish there was a mashed potato fairy.
I wish
there is no mashed. There is a fairy that will peel them for you if you're willing to pay for it, But I think that is sometimes the biggest challenge. And right now, of course, we're all facing, we all talk daily amongst ourselves about the cost of living. And we're just in an industry where that cost impacts every single element that we literally bring to the table, right? Literally.
Yeah,
and if I just say one more thing, with the people that work for us. So if we have servers or we have, people that we need to bring into the kitchen to help us prep, we have enormous respect for them because it is not easy work. And we also want to compensate them appropriately or better than appropriately and show that we appreciate and we respect what they do. And so again, that has to be reflected in what we present to somebody. So it's just really understanding everything that goes in and everybody that participates in making that meal for you.
Right. So what I was going to say is to not dumb it down, but to kind of get to the point is that Kate and I approach different contracts and different customers or clients where we may just out of the gate say, what's your budget? And let us work with your budget. Because for you to assume that you're going to go eat for $20.99 at Swiss Chalet and times that by 30, it doesn't always work that way. You know what I mean? So to answer your beginning question, it's kind of like, just to bring the reality back to what we're talking about. It's we do per person, and we do a lot of different groups, church groups, different things. And so I think with someone not knowing, as you say, they walk in and think, oh, well, I shouldn't have to pay $25 a person or whatever the case is. But going back to what Kate said, there's a lot more up to it than that. You're not just eating at home or, in your backyard or wherever the case is. There's more travel. There's more a bunch of different little things. So I guess what we're trying to, so if we could say something, it's like, hey, if we sit down and we chat about stuff, Kate will automatically say, hey, what's your budget? Because let me give you something that you're not going to be overwhelmed with and think you're not thinking you're up here and you're getting delivered down here. So if you're down here and that's what you want, here's what we can offer you. Yeah. And that's kind of where we go, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of us. But
no, that's great.
And particularly with corporate clients as well, I find that's a really good approach with our corporate clientele, because a lot of the time we have somebody that'll come to us and ask us about catering, but they already have a budget that they have to work to, right? It's already written in their annual budget. This is how much money there is to spend for this particular event. And it's way easier for us to say to a client, what's your budget if it's a corporate event? And then we're like, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, because now we can say, here's the best that we can bring to you within your budget, as opposed to, hey, we can do this and this and this and this, but it's coming in at twice your budget. So we really love honest conversations with people where, it kind of comes back to the idea of being collaborative and being flexible. And, particularly, like I said, with corporate clients, that's really the best approach that I find. And I don't think people should be embarrassed to share their budget. I think it's I think money is, a lot of the time, it's a sticking point for some people, right? They're really uncomfortable talking about money. And I used to be that way, actually. When I first started out, working for myself, I was really uncomfortable talking about dollars and cents.
It's a hard thing. So you want to hit your expectations. It's like the car business. Sean, you know this, right?
He's come back to the car business.
I'm going one more time, because it's like, you'd sit across the desk from someone and you go, hey, here's your payment. It's only $850 a month. And this was back like 10, 15 years ago. And they're like, okay, that's great. I can't read what they're able to pay or what they're not able to pay. If $850 makes you happy, amazing. In my world, it's $250. So what I'm trying to say is that you can never read someone, but it's a different outlook for us. And I think Kate's got the right attitude with it. It's like, let's get to the expectations, and we're not trying to be, I don't know what the word is, but we're not trying to draw your budget out of you, but we are trying to draw your budget out of you because we want to present something that isn't a waste of time.
Yeah. Having transparency.
We don't want to offer you, but something that's way up here when your budget's down here and there's an in between, and
set expectations proper, and
you got to do
and just to kind of round off what I was kind of alluding to is that I think, as somebody that was, if you were to come to us and be interested in us providing a meal service for you, don't be embarrassed to say, this is how much money I have. Because some people, $1,000 is so much money. To some people, $1,000 is not a lot of money, right? And so we want to be able to support everybody as much as we can.
Or what can we do for $1,000?
Or what can we do, at your budget that is going to be beautiful? You're going to be proud to present it. You're going to feel supported. You're going to feel like, if you're the host of the party, that you are still doing an amazing job and presenting something to the people that are there, that you as our client or as our guest can be proud of. And I think that's a bit of a misconception
We'll
that
elevate
people
that
should get over.
$1,000.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
We'll
right?
get to the elevation of that $1,000. So it's not just going to be a sandwich and a
or $500 or $100, whatever it is, right? So,
but that's us. Anyway, that's us.
So let me ask you, being business owners, we're super passionate about what we do. That means we can dump a lot of time into what we do because it doesn't really feel like work, but there's a harmony that's there between work and having fun, having hobbies, spending time together, doing these things that kind of recharge the batteries, right? So we're out there client facing, cooking food, you're behind the grill in that sexy apron you wear, all these different things, right? So that you need to have a bit of that harmony and keep yourself sane, live a good life, have fun doing it. That's the whole point of why we're here, is to make sure we're happy and having fun, making money while we're doing it. So let me ask you, when you're not working on your business or in your business, what do you like to do for fun?
Can I go first?
Sure.
We're huge. Couple things. I'm a huge music fan. I love music.
Yeah.
So if I can get to a show, if I can get to a concert, if I can get to a festival, that is just me all over. I love to travel. Nice. So that for me is how I like to spoil myself. That's a big treat. That's where I'll invest my time and my energy. And if I can work my calendar around, there's an amazing music festival this weekend. I really, really want to go to that, which is in the summer, which is our busy season, which can be difficult. I really love to do that. This last weekend, was kind of a perfect example. It was was it Saturday?
Yep.
So rainy Saturday. We had nothing that we were obligated to do. I was like, let's just jump in the car and go on a little local road trip, which funnily enough,
food related, of course,
was food centric.
Yeah. I love it.
So, it was a really simple example. We jumped in the car. We went to Dino's in Midland.
I don't know if you've ever been there, but I'm like, I need to go there because
if you haven't been to Dino's,
it was great.
Shout out to another local business. They've been there forever. You go to Dino's, Sean, in Midland.
Have you been there, Sean?
I know Dino's Pizza in Barrie, but Dino's in Midland.
So this is a deli on the main street, which I think is King Street in Midland.
Been there since the 20s, I think.
It's been there forever.
Yeah.
So if you order like a corned beef sandwich, it's literally like a half a pound of meat on this thing. Right?
We got the sandwich, took it home, and weighed it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how much meat is on this thing? And I'm like, we ate it for 2 days.
Yeah. So we went to Dino's and then we kind of did a little drive around.
Yeah.
We stopped for possibly an adult beverage.
And some lunch.
We ended up at, Victoria Harbor and we had a little, St. Patrick's Day lunch there. And
road trips is where
little road trips where people cook for us is really, our kind of go-to. That and music. If I can get to a concert.
And don't forget, Mexico's always there.
Well, he likes Mexico a lot. I love to travel, period. So if I can get somewhere that's,
I sometimes think we almost have a week open. And then Kate goes, oh, no, that's not going to work. We have a little thing going on the Saturday. I'm like, it just ruined my whole 7-day venture.
Yeah.
We got to cancel it now. We can't even go.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be like, anyway, a lot of what we used to do used to be around food, right? Like barbecuing for family, barbecuing for friends.
Which we still do, to be fair.
Which we still do. But I think I like somebody to cook for me, which isn't Jody. Because to be honest, at home, I don't do very much cooking anymore. But yeah, it's a lot of, I would say, food and music centric.
Yeah, music's good.
Is kind of what
food and music are two great things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And if we can find something that does it, then we're in. Like, I mean, the Lollapaloozas, Kate's going away with her daughter this year to Osheaga, and you know what? It works. It's just it takes your mind off, you shut it down, and you're in, right?
Yeah, I still behave like a teenager, honestly.
I love it.
Yeah.
So that's us. That's what we like to do. And
So Jody, you mentioned the caterer you worked for was Maltese.
Yeah.
So Julie and I, when we go on our honeymoon after the wedding in June, we're going to spend we have 3 legs to the trip, and the first leg is going to be in Malta.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Where's the second and third leg?
Sicily, and then booting it over to Rome.
Oh my God, you're gonna love it. You're gonna have such a good time. So much good food. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're big foodies, right? Obviously. So We've got some trips planned. We got a travel agent involved. Really, it's like that full service, right? Get off the plane, some dude in a suit's holding your name up.
That's what you need. You need to do that sometimes, right?
I honestly, I did the same thing myself a couple of years ago. Flew in to Venice. Got met by the guy in the suit, but then took a water taxi. And then, you know what? Sometimes you really have to spoil yourselves with things like that. And Rome is gorgeous. We're
taking a cooking class in Sicily.
I love that.
So we do a tour of a vineyard in the afternoon and then come back and do a cooking class.
So does that mean we're going to be hiring you for September weddings? Is that going to be you're going to be coming to work with us now?
Hey, if there's like, I don't know if I could say this on the air, but a glass of wine in the back of the kitchen for me. I
love that.
Yeah, we're not a dry kitchen, just so you know.
Yeah. So further, like, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, we are talking about doing some different unique things out of our kitchen. I mean, that's a different part of our conversation right now, and that not necessarily cooking classes, but different pairing stuff that we want to try and do more of.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, we'll maybe change it onto a bit of a more of a kind of a serious tone, right? In life, everyone's doing their thing. We pick our path. We're going down doing it. And life is all different kinds of things. Life is ups, life is downs. Sometimes life throws things at us, right? They throw obstacles. We go through challenges. Sometimes people experience tragedies. There's some people experience it more, less. It really just depends, and you never know what's coming, right? Every day is a new day, and we move on. But moving on from these things, I mean, we have to move forward. We have to get through that challenge. We have to, like, life is going to move forward. We have to move forward with it. So what's really kind of always amazed me is like human beings and their like ability to be able to not only overcome these challenges, but just how like the mind works, and it's all how you look at it, and the right mindset, seeing the glass half full, making silver linings out of something, trying to find the positive. And then, what did I learn from this? Take that experience and move on regardless of what it was. So I wanted to ask if you've ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge that maybe you overcame, maybe made you better, maybe made you stronger, maybe you took some silver linings from it.
Let me go first.
Sure.
I would say, for me, my life, I always like to kind of say about my life, the only constant in my life has been change. So there's been lots of ups and downs and, on a personal level and on a business level, it's been like this, it's been up and down, most of my adult life. As much as I call it the pause, other people call it COVID. I call it the pause. And I was in hospitality during the pause, in the event business. And, it actually blows me away to think that was 5 years ago now, because it doesn't seem like 5 years ago. And I guess there's been a lot of, little things that have hit media, social media, hit the news lately. It was 5 years ago today, I learned two really important things from the pause. Actually, before I tell you the two things, first of all, it aged me. It was a time that I hope we never have to revisit again. But what I learned from that was how to be supportive of people who had events like weddings booked, right? And all of a sudden their beautiful plan is blown up.
Right.
So how to be supportive of people, and how sometimes you have to put on a totally different hat in a situation and not be all about the business and not be all about the money. And how do we figure out how we navigate that? And, people use the word pivot all the time, right? We talk about having to pivot. I had to learn literally how to pivot on a dime, because something would come out on a Friday that impacted Saturday. So it was like, how do we navigate this? How do we support our guests, our clients? How do we make the best of what was really, quite frankly, if I can say it, a shitty situation for everybody?
Yeah.
So it taught me how to be, I think, a little more empathetic as the business owner, I guess you could say. And there was two things. It was empathy and how to react quickly and how to think. I mean, I've always had to think on my feet, no matter what business I was in, but I really had to think on my feet. And it also taught me how to really take a deep dive and to understand situations, and ask questions to get the result that I needed for my guest or I needed for my client. So it was really, really difficult. It was really, really difficult because not only were each of us as individuals having to go, holy crow, like, how do I get through this situation? I can't leave my house, or I can't, we all know, right? I don't have to reiterate that. But as a business owner in the hospitality business, in the event industry, I'm now having to also manage not only my emotions and my experience, but I'm having to manage and navigate and empathize with the experience and the emotions and the feelings of all of those other people who just had, to them, to a lot of people who are getting married in particular, that's the most important day in their life that has happened up to there, right? Like, they haven't had a bigger event, and that just got blown to smithereens. All my plans, everything that I wanted to do on that day just got blown up.
Yeah, it's like the double whammy of emotions.
Right. So, like I said, it was not only having to manage and navigate my own feelings and my own experiences through that, but also having to manage, navigate, empathize. I literally had people crying on the phone to me, and I was like, okay, what do we do? How do we get through this? What can we do to change, not to change, but what can we do to still make your event beautiful and make it happen? And sometimes it happened a year later, or sometimes they were like, nope, I'm still getting married. And okay, how do we figure it out? What can we do? So that was really, really, really hard. And I think right now we're experiencing another hard time. Like right now, as we speak today, because of everything that we see going on with the economy and pricing, and people are nervous about what's going to happen next. And so there's a bit of trepidation for us right now, like what's next for us as well, because of the type of business that we're in. Hospitality and throwing big parties may not be top of the list, right? I need to protect, as the person out there, maybe I am not able to, or I'm frightened to make plans for a big event or a big party or a big wedding, because I'm worried that I might have to put that money into something else. So we're looking for we're looking to grow our business maybe in different ways that we hadn't considered before, whether it be smaller parties or
lunches at our kitchen, and we're looking at other options for us right now, and unique and closed door dinner sessions for small groups in our kitchen area, that kind of thing. But to answer your question, to start, like, we've overcome challenges, and I got to tell you, the challenges are, I have young kids, not young kids, they're all older kids, but they all have a mindset that they don't want to work. So our challenge, one of our biggest challenges, is when we're busy and you need staff, and you can't get staff. I'm getting older. It's hard for me to work. It's hard for me to work 18 hours a day and wake up sore and go, oh my God, did I just move that whole kitchen into, a field and make that work? And I have, young kids, 16, 18, 20, 21 years old, that, they're kind of staring at their phone and staring into space going. So I guess one of the challenges that we've had to overcome is, we've had to put our head down. Kate and I will come in the kitchen, and she goes one way, I go the other way. But by the end of the day, the event or whatever it is, we sit down, we may have a glass of wine, something like that. Or two. And we look at each other and go, wow, we did that again. Yeah. We did that again. And so I guess one of our challenges that we've had to overcome is staffing. I mean, it's a tough call right now. And, economy should say, hey, if you have jobs available, they should want to work. But we haven't experienced that much, to be fair. So anyway, that's one of the challenges that we've had to overcome for sure.
No, I certainly appreciate you guys sharing that. I mean, everybody's got something, and it's wild that, for those who are listening, even for me, I always get surprised every once in a while because people they naturally just either don't think of it or they prejudge. But like everybody's got something going on. And so if you're listening, you got something going on, like you're not the only one. Everyone's got something going on.
Yeah. And you know what, Sean, there's a phrase that I like to use is everybody has a story. And my story isn't more important than your story. Or my story isn't more special than your story. Like everybody has a life. Everybody experiences ups and downs and happy days and sad days. And, I have a lot of stories I could tell you, believe me. But everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. Everybody has, things that are going to affect the way they feel today or the way that they respond to you today or, just the mood that they're in. And I just to kind of come back to Jody's point a little bit about finding staff. It's really, it's interesting because you guys are kind of in the social media marketing arena, right? So it's a different kind of landscape. Jody and I grew up in a different arena, a different landscape. Social media was born and developed as when we were adults. We didn't grow up with it, right? So, what people perceive as a job these days, I think is different than what we perceived as a job when we were teenagers.
Definitely different demographic, different generation.
Yeah.
Things change and knowing how to adapt. We're the bridge gap between.
And then, and that's why, people like yourself and Jeff are really interesting for us because we didn't grow up with social media. We didn't grow up with podcasts. I remember when Facebook was launched, when Instagram was launched, when TikTok was launched, whereas, my daughter.
When payphones happened.
We used to, right? My first cell phone was a pouch in my car. I think it cost like 75 cents a minute.
Are you coming home?
Yeah.
Or it's getting dark, right?
Yeah.
Like, hello.
But what I was going to say is that's where people like us, when we communicate with a group with with Sean, like with you or Jeff rather, that's really where we can learn and where we can lean on some tools that are not inherently in our wheelhouse, right?
100%. Well, look, guys, that was a phenomenal conversation. Awesome discussion on food in general, getting a chance to get to know you guys a little bit more than I already did. For our listeners as well, about the business and what you guys are bringing to the table, pun intended. I'm definitely sure there are going to be some people that are interested that want to find out a little bit more about you guys, about your business. And so for those who are, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and do that?
Sorry, what was the what?
What would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and reach you for those who
sorry, I didn't hear you there. So obviously we have a website. So our website is, what is our website? foodworksbykajo.ca. So
but Instagram's
there's a contact form there. So that's a great way to reach us. Instagram, Jody does a little post every day. It's usually what is National Day. So that's another way.
I don't know if it's the right thing or wrong thing. Honestly, Sean, it's just something I do daily.
To reach us. But just reach out, email, phone, text, we're there. So 100%.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thanks again for coming on the show and wish you guys all the best out there.
Hey, thanks very much, Sean.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sean.
it. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com or call 705-413-3775.